GodzillaCon in Chicago happened again this year, and I went there, and it was awesome. I said it in my haul video, but this was probably my favorite G-Fest that I've ever been to for many different reasons, and all of those will be highlighted here. We're gonna do a similar style of video as the 2023 vlog, where I go through each day I was there and talk about all the things I did while I was in Chicago. But I am gonna change things up slightly. I'm gonna try and do this unscripted, aside from this opening, of course, and the ending. So if my voice sounds different for the majority of this video, then that's why. I'm not reading from a script. And now that you know about Sam the GaigaFan script voice, you will never not be able to unhear it in any future video I do. And on that note, let's dive on in and start when I first arrived on Tuesday. So yeah, you heard scripted me. I arrived on Tuesday this year, not Thursday like in previous years or even Wednesday. And this whole thing's a part of like a huge strategy that we've been planning out for the past few years of basically just trying to maximize our stay at G-Fest as much as possible. But I think for this year, we finally figured it out. Basically, it's arrive late on Tuesday night. So, you know, you get to the hotel and just like chill out for a few hours, then you go to bed. And then on Wednesday, you get up and you go and chut around the city or just hang out or whatever. And then on Thursday, which is when like a lot of the actual con stuff starts up, you know, you'll be there for the whole thing. You've done all your random stuff in Chicago, and now, you know, it's at that point it's off to the races. Of course, I think this will definitely differ from person to person. Like if you don't really care about going to the Pickwick shows on Thursday, or if like you don't have any people that are showing up on Thursday, then at that point there'd be no real reason to keep up with the schedule. But for me and my friend group, I think this is what ends up working out the best. So this is probably just going to be the format that I'll be sticking to. Also, as you're probably seeing through the B-roll, it was a very pretty flight in. I didn't get to see any of the actual like lights of downtown Chicago, but we got a lot of suburb stuff, and that was also pretty. Shout out to this shot of the highway. That was really cool. And then we landed, got a shuttle to the hotel with Tom and Gassner, which, by the way, because of how freakishly large the group was this year, I'm probably not going to mention everyone here by name, or at least just like run through the list of all the crazy characters that were there. They're probably just going to come up when they're relevant. So for any of my friends watching, if I leave you out, that's not intentional. So got the shuttle to the hotel with Tom and Gassner, and we arrived at the Hyatt. Nothing much else to add about the Hyatt that I didn't say in 2023. It's a very cool hotel, very labyrinthian, very brutalist in its design. Am I even using brutalist in that kind of context? I do not know. I don't care. And then the room. If you were wondering what room I was staying in this year, it was the one with the Dollar Tree Godzilla poster. And yes, every time I went up the elevator all weekend to go up to my room, it made me smile. It was very, very funny. But the room itself was heat. It was goated. We got a room this year that was actually like facing the city, which was super cool. So like at night, you would always get a view of actual downtown Chicago being all lit up and bright and stuff. And even in the day, the view was very nice. Sometimes during sunset, you would see like lights reflecting off of the skyscrapers, which were very cool. A lot of like the B-roll that I got of this year was just the Chicago skyline. Excluding like Field Museum stuff, I'd wager that like 10% of the pictures that I took at G-Fest were of the Chicago skyline. So yeah, absolutely goated view. And then afterwards, we went to Denny's. I took Manda to Denny's. He was very hungry and he ate a lot. Yeah, not much else to add there. And then, yeah, let's go to Wednesday. So I mentioned Wednesday as the day that we were chutting around Chicago, and we did that today. That was the Field Museum this year. This is the third time that I went, and the second time in a row I've been to the Field Museum. Sam the GaigaFan, why would you go to the Field Museum twice, basically back to back in 2 years? The answer will be revealed later, but it really should not be that much of a surprise. I did mention it in the haul video. But the Field Museum is cool and great, and it's awesome. We spent a lot of time, weirdly more time than expected, in American Indigenous peoples exhibits. There was a lot to see there, including, gaming, getting Oriful pictures. But as for like general exhibit stuff, I did have to pour some out for my recently extinct homies. Got pictures with my bros. Got really funny pictures of animals there. Saw the lions of Savo. Those are cool. And then just getting a bunch of pictures of some of my favorite displays. Had to get some of my one and only bro. And then of course we all also had to make fun of museum exhibits whenever that was appropriate.
What the fuck, bro? Who do they think they're fooling?
But specifically, there were 2 temporary exhibits that we did go to. The first one was After the Age of Dinosaurs, which is basically just a whole catalog of the Cenozoic era. This one was cool, if a little simplistic. I don't understand why this couldn't be just a permanent setup in the museum, and I think paying $30 for this was a little excessive, but it is very cool. To go a little paleo chud mode here, this was like just a couple weeks after the Surviving Earth episode that dealt with the KBG extinction, so getting pictures of guys like Plesiodapus and Titanoids was pretty cool. And of course I did have to get footage of my one and only bro, Gastornis. A lot of the fossils here were actually very cool. There's like this horse, and then there's this lizard, this bird is neat, saw Andrewsarchus, my goat, and then there was also like this strand of mammoth hair that was actually really cool. I'm not even gonna fault that. And then of course, me being the little paleo chud nerd that I am, I of course had to get a bunch of pictures of my goats. Got an orthicone, Dunkleosteus, the reason I have to pay taxes, Tully Monster, my goat, my one and only bro, the Herrerasaurus, the ever emblematic Chicago Archaeopteryx. I got a pin of that, you can see in the haul video. Please watch the haul video. And we of course had to visit the best to ever do it, Sue, like the most complete T-Rex ever found, I think. There might be a more complete T-Rex found now, but at least of time of digging her up, she was the most complete T-Rex ever found. And then of course there was the main thing, the Pokemon Fossil Museum. Now, do I know anything about Pokemon? No. Did I have to lean over to Tom and say, hey man, did they make up any of these Pokemon? And then he looked at me like I was a crazy person and say, no, why would they make up a Pokemon for the museum? And I was like, oh, I don't know, man, I don't know anything about Pokemon. But I did end up getting a lot of footage of the exhibits, mostly just for my friend who is a really, really big Pokemon fan. But I mean, despite not being a Pokemon person, I have to admit all of this was really, really cool. All the exhibits were largely like pretty much the same. Like you have the main fossil of the Pokemon, and then like to either side you have like a little fossil of that Pokemon, and then like the fossil of the animal that it's like based on. But it is kind of cool just seeing a bunch of like big like model statues of all these Pokemon skeletons. I don't know, it's neat. I'm allowed to appreciate these things despite not being a big Pokemon person. Not much else to add for the Field Museum. I do have this video though. Oh hey, tiny Quetzalcoatlus, how about I... And then after we got back to the hotel, we had a little surprise because my buddy RJ, Boats Can Fly, you know who he is. He has the show a Godzilla suit. He came up and he ran around and did a little show for us. It was great. He did this last year and it was great to see he did it again this year. One of my friends, Gigantus Q, also got a little bust of the 64 from him, and that was really cute. And then we ended up taking him to Chili's. We went to Chili's. I like Chili's. It's very good. Got a triple dipper. After doing a little quick trip to Target afterwards that I didn't get any footage of, we got back to the hotel and filmed a little short that may or may not see the light of day. I actually do not know at this point. I ended up getting a bunch of B-roll or behind the scenes footage of that. I'm not going to show everything here just in case it actually does go up, but I will show this.
You made Godzilla versus Skibbity Toilet versus Golden Freddy!
Yeah, and then that pretty much wraps everything up for Wednesday. And then Thursday, where nothing interesting at all happened in the morning. So something kind of cool happened on Thursday. We got the first official trailer for Godzilla Minus. A whole bunch of us gathered into our room to watch it, and then the immediate reaction afterwards was,
"That's it? That's the last episode?"
You guys think I'm kidding. I'm not.
That's it. That's the last episode.
That's it? That's the trailer?
Stock footage.
That was just one shot of Godzilla's tail!
Okay, I do kind of joke. I would be a lot more impressed with the trailer if it wasn't just a lot of the footage that we saw in the first look reveal. And if you were to ask me, the first look reveal is more exciting. There was more interesting stuff to chew on there. Not that this trailer didn't give us anything interesting to talk about. We got a brand new character, which was very cool. And then there's a lot of really interesting implications that the teaser sort of leaves us off with. I'm not going to talk about that here. That's not what this video is for. That'll probably be more relevant once we get an actual trailer for Minus Zero, and I'll probably go more in depth to talk about that then. I will say though, watching a Godzilla trailer live at G-Fest was an insane feeling. Like, they announced they'd be dropping the teaser on Wednesday, and for a while that was kind of like the only thing I could really think about. It's like they knew what they were doing. Like, they had to have known, right? There's no way that they didn't. I don't know. But either way, it was very cool. It was really neat. And then we did Denny's again, and we did Denny. So like Tuesday night, it was more of like a little impromptu thing, just cause like, oh, midnight Denny's, that's fun. But this is the actual big Denny's party with everyone, and it was very nice. I pretty much got the same thing as last time. I think I might have gotten a different sandwich, but functionally, it's basically the same thing. But Denny, it was good, it was yummy. And then afterwards we went to the first Pickwick movie, which was Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, or Ebirah Horror of the Deep. And this was a really fun one for me, mostly just because this was the first time that I watched a Showa Godzilla movie in theaters. I've never done that before, so finally being able to see one was actually very cool. Ebirah is a movie that I really like and has been growing on me a lot over the past few years, and I don't really think that this screening has changed my mind on it that much. Like it's still good, and I like it. But yeah, overall, it was a very, very fun showing. So random anecdotes about the movie. Actually, the first one is gonna be about something that happened literally right before. So like right before they actually started the movie, they played what I can only describe as AI Slop Gfantis going up on screen and doing a little thing, doing a little jig. This sucked, and I hated it, and apparently everyone else did, because supposedly every time this played in front of every show on Thursday afterwards, there was a pretty sizable booing, and it was removed after that day. It wasn't in front of GMK or Rebirth of Mothra, and I don't think it was in front of -1 either. But thankfully, the rest of the movie itself was fine. It weirdly was the 2004 TriStar DVD. You can tell because it played the TriStar logo in front of it. But also, like, the quality of it was like pretty noticeably worse than what it would be on a DVD. I don't know why they decided to do the DVD version instead of like playing the Kraken Blu-ray, which is probably the best that movie has ever looked. Or even like the Criterion. I mean, I can only complain so much about them playing the DVD because, again, the colors are still a lot nicer than the Criterion version. Also, it was dubbed, which was very weird. I'm not necessarily a big fan of the Ebirah dub, but also like it was nice seeing the Pickwick kind of like be more lax about what movies were dub and what movies were sub. Like, Ebirah, I think, is fine in that regard. My gripes with the dub aside, mostly with, like, kind of bad voice acting. Like, Pickwick screenings are not necessarily ones where you have to, like, lock in for. Like, okay, if I can just, like, yap about, like, Pickwick reception for a second. See, now you can tell this is really off script, but I've seen a handful of people, like, on Twitter talking about, like, why are you cheering in the Pickwick? It's like you're in a movie, you're watching a movie, watch the damn movie, don't scream. And it's we're all a bunch of like dumb chuds, and we're watching Godzilla get smacked by Mothra on the big screen. We're gonna lose our shit over that because it's fun. Like okay, everyone has heard about what happened with Godzilla vs. Kong in 2022 and how there were some people being like kind of weird about Millie Bobby Brown there. For what it's worth, it was really fun. Like, the volleyball scene had us going back and forth going, oh, whenever Godzilla and Ebirah were smacking around the boulder. I mean, you could hear it in the video.
Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! Oh!
The giant condor fight was great. We were all just like losing our shit over that. And then the one instance of us where it's like, okay, this was pretty much exclusive to our group was when we cheered over the cigarette that's stuck in Mothra's fur in the movie. It's a blink or you'll miss it moment, but we did scream for it, and I don't think anyone else even noticed the cigarette in Mothra's fur. I swear, we were in a room with a bunch of LARPers. But yeah, Ebirah was fun. It was cool to finally see a Showa movie in theaters. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, not much else happened on Thursday, so let's go and move things on into Friday. Alright, so Friday, we woke up super early to get into the line, and at that point there was already kind of a little bit of a lengthy line, and I'm kind of now at a point where I need to vent about people waiting in the dealer's room line, because I'm gonna level with you. Most of the people that wait in the dealer's room line are waiting for things that they don't need to wait in the dealer's room line for. So I know it is kind of a common strat now just to wait in the dealer's room line all night long. Like the amount of people that I saw like bringing down like pillows and blankets so they can sleep in the dealer's room line it was enough to the point where I, can make a point about it in this section. But there is also like, it's no secret that the things that Godzilla fans collect now have changed quite a bit over the past few years, because instead of, people prioritizing Bandai vinyls, now it's all about articulated figures, getting monster arts and Hayas and the like, which is ironic coming from me, from someone who just did a review of the Haya 2000. But my statement about this is, first of all, you do not need to sabotage your entire G-Fest weekend to get a toy that guaranteed will be in the dealer's room. For the record, this isn't me saying that just so I can get in and buy all the toys. This is like, I have noticed this throughout this weekend, that a lot of the things that people are buying at G-Fest, especially like figures that people like are waiting in the dealer's room line for, are gonna be in the dealer's room, and they're gonna be in there for like not scalped prices. So you do not need to pull the strat. Like if your reasoning for waiting in the line is being concerned for, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to get this figure, you do not need to do that. That figure that you want will be there. You'll be fine. If you want to like just still wait in line all night long anyway, you do you, man. Like I'm not gonna judge you. If you do it just because you're fun, I'm not gonna stop you. Whatever. But I am just saying the stuff that you're probably going to want to get in the dealer's room is gonna be there all weekend. You do not have to fret. And then there also comes my other point. Don't buy Monster Arts and Haya at G-Fest. This was something that I have sort of been ruminating over for a while, but the thing that separates buying Bandai vinyls at G-Fest versus buying like Monster Arts and Haya at G-Fest is that with getting a Bandai vinyl, you can like pick and choose specifically which version of the figure you actually want. Like let's say like, oh, maybe one of them has like a little paint blemish somewhere, but the other one doesn't. Like you can like pick out the one that's like, that is like higher quality, and that's the one that you get. Like it, it's sort of like the actual appeal of buying those figures in person. Whereas like getting a Monster Arts or getting a Haya especially, you still have no idea like what type of figure you're gonna end up getting. Like, is it gonna have any paint blemishes? Is it gonna have any like loose joints or like broken details? And like they're not gonna let it out of the box just so you can like fiddle with it. You can't do that. So like you're not getting like any real advantage of like buying that thing in person versus buying it online. There's no real advantage to that over getting like a Bandai vinyl in person. Like, okay, like again, if you want to do that, if you want to buy it in person, I'm not gonna stop you. These are just the reasons for me why I personally would not want to go and buy like Monster Arts or Haya at G-Fest. I will make the claim that like if you're intentionally like buying it off of someone, like you made a deal with someone before the convention and like, you meet up there and like you exchange the goods and like whatever, like do that. Like that's fine. You can do that. But in general, I personally just would not recommend buying articulated figures at G-Fest for those reasons. Like you're basically not getting a different experience out of getting it there as opposed to getting it, at home online from wherever. But yeah, that's just my point. If you're gonna be at G-Fest, like try and buy things that like you can't necessarily buy online. Get more Bandai vinyls, get like Safubis, get more interesting things there than just getting, the usual Godzilla toy slop. You buy it because it's a Godzilla toy. But anyway, so after the very, 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 very long wait, we did go into the dealer's room. Actually, I ended up getting in a little bit early because that's something that the media pass allows. So you can do that. We did get booed while going in 30 minutes early, which, yeah, no, I get it. I feel you. Anyone who was waiting in the dealer's room line Friday morning who was booing at all of us entering early, I get you. I feel that. And then the dealer's room itself opened fully. And just to yap about the dealer's room, the layout sucks now. just straight up, It's terrible. So what happened was in 2025, they moved it into a new room, different from the one that it was in from 2022 to 2024. And I guess the new room does technically have more square footage, but the way that they utilize it, the new room is smaller. It is, especially when you cram in more tables. There's less room for people to just move around. There's a lot more places where you get like these massive traffic jams or choke points. And especially this year, they completely just blocked off a through section that would have like eased up congestion a lot and added more tables there. So like the layout now is just, it's not good. It's very not good. I'm definitely going to bring this up again at the end of the video, but yeah, it's not good. Even like less than 30 minutes after the dealer's room opened fully to the public, you can already tell like choke points, those were already forming, not even half an hour after it was fully open to the public. So like something has to be done about that, son. You got like that's something that needs to be fixed. Actually, I did end up going into the dealer's room this year more than I did in 2025, and I did end up getting a whole lot of toys on Friday, so you know, there's that. And then after a whole bunch of chutting around, eventually me, Tom, and Renton Luby Gub did go downstairs to sort of just wander around and get some food. And then fortunately there was a bit more variety when it came to food this year than in previous years, because there was a food truck that sold euros or gyros or whatever. I don't know how to say it, but I think it is euros. Yeah, what he said. And I didn't get a euro, but I did get a pita, and I gotta say, I am a big supporter of the food truck. Mostly just because, like, it does give you a lot more variety of food than just, like, burger or pizza or whatever. It's nice. You get a whole new option of food that's still, like, weirdly roughly the same price as what you get in the hotel anyway. So I like this. I support this. This is good. I keep doing this. And then after we got food from the food truck, we went to the amateur video contest. Specifically, that was where some shorts from a few of our friends were. From a buddy, David the Tokuist. He had his Ultraman short there. And then the main attraction was Godzilla versus Tung 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 Sahor, done by my awesome buddy, Robozilla64. This was a really awesome 3D short that he animated. That's sort of like meant to be an anti-AI message, which, you know, considering this is G-Fest, that's very appropriate and weird that they allowed it because of all the AI slop that they keep putting around the convention. Again, I'll bring that up later. But yeah, this was very good. It's very well animated. Not much else to add here. It was very awesome, and I'd highly recommend you go watch it. I'll probably plug it around here or so. And then afterwards, chill out for a little longer, and then went to GMK at the Pickwick. This was awesome. This was one of the 2 times I've ever been in the Pickwick, and I think also one of 2 times in the Pickwick history a G-Fest show has been sold out. The other time was for Final Wars, which kind of sort of reaffirms my assessment that GMK is kind of just like the fan favorite Godzilla movie, which, you know, is appropriately enough because GMK is tough as shit. I love it. No, I've mentioned my love for this movie before. It's been a weirdly relevant movie on the channel lately, so yeah. But this was probably my favorite Pickwick screening I've ever been to, just being honest. They did play it subtitled, Sony Blu-ray, albeit, so like the subtitles were like inaccurate, but I mean, even then, GMK is still like, you know, still one of the best movies in the freaking series. It was just kind of like that perfect storm of like being like perfectly locked in for the movie and also just like being filled with like that Pickwick energy. So it's like, you know, like a lot of like the hype moments and the aura of this movie, like they do hit like appropriately. Like the Ghidorah resurrection scene, dude, that was, oh my god, seeing that on the big screen was so unfathomably tough. Not much else to really add here. I don't really have as many anecdotes with this one as I do with Ebera. Yeah, I don't think I really need to have that many. The GMK kind of just speaks for itself. It's one of the best in the entire series, and the screening itself was definitely like the best that I've ever been to. I love it. And also, like, I'm weirdly the only one that thinks this. My friends all seem to prefer Final Wars, which Final Wars is number 2, but I think GMK was just like on a whole other level for me. So yeah, that's GMK. And that's also Friday. So let's move on to Saturday now. Yay! Okay, so Saturday, we started off playing a very awesome game called Kill Gigantus Q, which is, you know, kind of speaks for itself.
Items, you have a faster reload time. Hey, don't come over here! I don't want this shit. Oh, it hurts so much more than I remembered.
Yeah, most of the day was pretty much filled with just a lot of just chutting around the hotel. So like, you know, went back to the dealer's room to buy more toys. I went into the history of G-Fest room, which was admittedly kind of cool to see some of the things in there, some of the history of the con. And then at around 2-ish, we went to the pseudo finale series premiere thing for Daikaiju Legend Zone Fighter, because, you know, it was like the first half of the 10th episode, and then he also played episode 8 and 9 in front of it, so, you know, there's that. But yeah, not much to really add there, since, you know, it's part of a full episode and not like the full episode, especially considering, like, you know, Zone Fighter, it played there when I first went to G-Fest. It's kind of nice to go and, you know, keep watching it there, you know, make it a tradition, and, you know, and support Jake, because, you know, he's awesome and great and talented, and yeah. And then afterwards, just more chutting around, and then I decided to go and walk around a little bit, and at this point, the costume parade was going on, and I decided to check it out. I mentioned in the 2023 vlog that the costume parade, the way it's set up is kind of dumb and stupid, and I don't like it. And that is still the same it is here. I didn't get any footage of it, but there were a couple of rooms that actually were dedicated to like playing live footage of the costume parade. But like that bubble I was sort of talking about in 2023 had like expanded exponentially to the point where like you can see it like in the B-roll. Like there are people like standing on the tables in the back. So at this point, I don't really care about watching the costume parade. Like I see enough cool costumes walking around G-Fest to the point where it's like, I'm not really in need of like watching every single one of them. There's just the idea of like, you know, once it's getting to the point of like people are like standing on tables and crowding around this much, it's like, this is like a fire hazard, right? Like G-Fest is not at all concerned about this. I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm not G-Fest, and like I'm sure like they're familiar enough to the point where it's like, yeah, like this is fine, we can deal with this. And like, you know, like I'm looking at the B-roll and I'm just thinking about like what I saw, and it's like, really, this doesn't raise like any alarms at all? But whatever. But yeah, that's the costume parade. And then a little while after that, we did our annual Ultraman Canes party with watching the second episode of Ultraman Teo. The episode itself was mid, but Canes is always good. I'm very happy that this tradition is a thing. God, I need Ultraman to be good again. And then, once more, after a while of chutting around, it was time for the awesome Midnight Shenanigans this year, comprising of going into Minia's place and doing a bunch of little doodles. You know, I drew me, and I drew my goat, and then doing a bunch of random Godzilla shit in the lower lobby, which consisted of, for example, doing the Megalon dropkick, Alex Blasky doing the GMK run, and then us recreating New Empire. It was great. Goated Midnight Shenanigan. And then after that, just a lot more kind of chutting around. I know I've said that a lot, like especially for a Saturday, but yeah, I mean, there wasn't really much else. Like we were kind of just hanging out and chatting for a while, and then we all eventually went up to our rooms and went to bed. So, and now let's talk about Sunday, baby. Woo! Okay, so Sunday, had a bit of a late start on this day, but I did manage to go back into the dealer's room one last time. I managed to have some of that purple milk, boys.
Got some of the purple milk, boys.
I just fucking said that. And then we all went to Mitsuya. I've mentioned this place in the 2023 vlog. We get ramen there. It's great. I also got little Manda from the Gashapon machine, and I took him to the Rebirth of Mothra screening at the Pickwick. And if you know anything about the Rebirth of Mothra screening at the Pickwick, you know that it was low-key hell. So, no AI slop intro, again, as I stated before, but the way the whole thing was screened was low-key kind of infuriating. So, they started off playing the normal Blu-ray, but it was in scope. They played it in widescreen and not in full screen like, you know, what the movie actually is. So, the subtitles were cut off at the bottom. They did try to, like, fix this and, like, reorient the projector, but what happened after that was the like top of the screen was still like barely being shown, so it made this like really awful, terrible effect that was super distracting. And then, or after a couple more minutes of that, they paused the movie, and then one of the employees came out and were like, hey guys, so we decided to play the Blu-ray because we assumed that's what a lot of people would want to watch. We're just gonna give you the option of either sticking with this or going with, or actually like a DCP or digital content package of the movie, but it is in dub. And then we all chose the dub just because, like, you know, worst comes to worst, even if it is like cut off, you know, we don't have to worry about like not being able to fucking read it. Turns out that was a mistake because the DCP of the movie was a really shitty AI slop upscale of the DVD. You can see it a little bit in the footage, but you can especially see it in pictures, in the one picture that I took, where it's like some of the details just straight up like started turning into like ancient like rune hieroglyphic type shit. I don't understand how this came to be. Like, I'm coming from this perspective as, you know, movie theater employee, which I have mentioned multiple times in the past. The simplest thing they could have done, and I don't know why they didn't do it, was literally just shrink the frame size so the whole thing would fit onto like the scope screen, which I would not be like offended by. Like, I would be fine with that. That's kind of like the kicker, is that like I don't understand why they didn't just do that. That seems like the much easier option. Maybe it's just like the technology that they have, where it's like, oh, they don't have a projector that like can do that, and maybe like zooming out can just be it would be a lot more complicated than literally just like changing the framing of the screen. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't work at the Pickwick. Every movie theater is different, so I'm not really gonna judge them that hard for that, but I don't get where that DCP came from. So, you know, I keep saying DCP, digital content package. That's like the official thing that like movie studios, like they send out to movie theaters. You know, it's like, it's a whole specific thing. It's not just like, you know, you send like a disc and then like you load it into the system and then you play it. Like, no, it's like, it's a whole ass thing, you know? So I don't get what DCP for this movie had weird AI slop upscale version. I mean, I doubt it's official, because, you know, they do have, you know, Rebirth of Mothra Blu-ray. I know that because that's the version that they were playing before then. So I do not know. It's just fucking baffling to me for a whole host of reasons. But I will say this, seeing Rebirth of Mothra 1 in theaters was fun enough. If nothing else, hearing the soundtrack was amazing. I love the soundtrack for this movie. And it was so cool being able to hear that in theaters. That was great. I loved that. But yeah, I just don't get what happened with that Pickwick show. That was weird. That was dumb. And then going back to the hotel after that, this was the first year I ever actually went to the unofficial blood party that they have there. Basically, it's just like the big after party with like a bunch of drinking and crap, and you know, a lot of people go to that. I did have a little bit to drink there. I had a shot of 100 proof, which is like 50% alcohol vodka. And then also, but I will give a shout out to the blood party for being one of the very, 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 very rare instances of Godzilla fans knowing ball. You know, I talk trash on Godzilla fans sometimes, but it's moments like these that I realize that there's some cool people here. And then after that, a lot of the final shenanigans were occurring, mostly just shutting out in the hotel room. And then after a while, me, Robo, Renton, and Tom were kind of just running around the hotel afterwards. We went into the corridors, which for those who watched the 2023 vlog, it was the same place that me and a couple of our friends went into for the 2023 vlog, for those Saturday night shenanigans. Though it was much more in depth this time, and it's very scary in there. But I don't know, it was fun. I probably should put on shoes. I was just walking around in socks. I was low-key regretting it like halfway through, but it was fun. It was fun. And then, yeah, that pretty much wraps things up for this year's G-Fest. Monday morning hit, and then we all collectively went our separate ways. Some of us hanging out in the airport for a little while longer, getting breakfast and stuff. But yeah, that pretty much wraps things up there. And that's this year's G-Fest. Oh, and also they revealed the -0 design while we were in the TSA line. And And that wraps things up for G-Fest this year. And yeah, you heard me yap for the past 35 minutes. This was the best G-Fest ever. There are some pretty notable areas in need of improvement that I will mention soon, but overall, this was the most fun I've had at the con in a long time, at least since 2023. I know I probably didn't go into as many facets at the con as other people's vlogs. I never mentioned the likes of the gaming room or the model room, but who cares? They're in every other vlog. My vlog, meanwhile, has me yapping about why the food truck is cool, so therefore it's better than everyone else's. Where was I? Oh, yeah, I didn't dive in too deep on all the aspects of the con, and I know that the last 2 days were light on things that I did, but a lot of that was mostly just I'm hanging out in my room with my awesome and lovely friends doing random bullshit, which, if I went in depth about that, this video would probably be well over an hour long, and this is already the longest video I've ever made, so you can see why I didn't. On the topic of my friends though, I don't think I'm gonna say anything here that I didn't say in my 2023 vlog, but I love all these guys, gals, and pals to pieces. Some of the greatest people I've ever met and ones who I'd happily consider family. And above all else are the reason I keep coming back to this convention year after year. So thank you guys, I love you. As for the con itself, this year was great, but there are definitely areas I think they could certainly improve on, both in a negative and a positive sense. So real quick, let's dive on in and discuss those points. Number 1, move the dealer's room again. This was probably the biggest point that I made throughout the video, but yeah, the dealer's room desperately needs to be moved back to either where it was in 2022 to 2024 and allot that whole ballroom section to it, or just move the dealer's room into the convention center next door. I feel like the dealer's room is big enough to warrant that extra space, and at this rate, with the convention getting bigger and bigger each passing year, G-Fest can absolutely afford to spend a little extra cash into arguably their main attraction outside of the con itself. This is also the one that I think needs to be changed the most. Once again, we're getting another back-to-back Toho Legendary release with -0 and Supernova dropping, so that'll once again bring more eyes onto the convention, much like how -1 and New Empire did in 2024. I would argue that this is a mandatory change that needed to be done yesterday. Number 2, stop the AI slop. Objectively, the more important thing is to simply stop using AI throughout the convention. The slop G-Fantas that showed up during the Pickwick shows and a few digital billboards plastered around the con that used AI-generated images were extremely unfortunate blights on the con that, while maybe are not that big in the grand scheme of things, I mean, these don't necessarily affect how the con itself is handled. It does sort of give the impression that G-Fest cheapened out in these areas, which is never a good look for anyone really. Also, considering that the franchise this con is celebrating is built off the backs of actual blood, sweat, and tears of incredibly talented artists, I find it extremely inappropriate to have this stuff even be in the same breath as Godzilla. Number 3, change how the Pickwick is operated. This is less important, but still needs addressing because I feel like if there is any place where the con could use restructuring of leadership again, it would be here. I'm aware that many private screenings held by movie theaters are run by the employees themselves, which if I were to add anything to my Rebirth of Mothra rant, I hold no animosity towards any of the Pickwick employees. Stuff like this just unfortunately happens from time to time in the theater industry, and especially if you go to the movies often enough, it simply becomes a matter of when something goes wrong rather than if something will go wrong. With that said though, I do think that involvement from congoers would go a long way in improving the theatrical experiences for everyone. Picking out which versions of the films would be best to screen so we avoid things like using 20-plus-year-old DVDs when we have much higher quality sources would go a long way in improving that. I do understand that there could be a concern with Toho potentially coming down and interfering with another one of G-Fest's most popular attractions through means like these, but at the same time, I really don't think they would approve of the con using 20-plus-year-old DVDs as opposed to the current Criterion transfers, which are the official ones in the States. And finally, number 4, keep the community involvement. Finally, we have a positive change. Something that I noticed a lot this year was the stronger sense of community, no doubt thanks to things like the Media Pass allowing more content creators to come in and post about the convention. During the weekend, I saw tons of videos all over Instagram from people posting about G-Fest, and I think that this shift is a good change. G-Fest is a fan convention, one that prides itself on the strength of the Godzilla community, and I think that adapting it for stuff like this is a great change that I would like to see continue, though I would like to see some other sides of the fandom reached out to for next year, and for example, get some other YouTubers in there. Let's put it this way, one of the main reasons I'm making this section and doing this vlog in general is because I was one of the people with the Media Pass, so I'd hope that these statements would reach more people from G-Fest because of that. These are all points made from genuine critique, and I wish for improvements for the con to be made so it can be even better than ever. That's that out of the way. But before we wrap things up, I I do want to say one more thing. Thank you to everyone who came up to me and said hi this year. All of you were so kind and had such nice things to say, and it meant a lot to me knowing that my videos mean so much to so many people. I can't mention everyone by name, but specifically I'll shout out Jonathan Cedarval, who I met last year and is overall a chill dude, Gomelian, who was the first kid who came up to me and specifically asked for a picture, Goji Studios YT, who had me name one of his T-Rexes in Ark, and the family who I met on Friday night, who I never got the names of, but you guys were very nice and lovely. I hope you guys had a great weekend, and I hope everything worked out with your costumes. All of you guys who came up and said hi and asked for pictures and stuff like that were genuinely a highlight of my weekend. Thank you all for being so awesome, and while we're on the topic, thanks for everyone who subscribed recently. The channel had a massive boost in subscribers, nearly doubling the amount of people in just 3 months, which is just insane. More videos will be on the way soon. We'll be taking a tiny break from Godzilla for a minute, and during that time, I'll just be sitting here going,
What? What's the matter? Come on, this is pretty interesting, right?
But of course, these were just my thoughts, and I want to know yours. If you went to G-Fest this year, what were some of your favorite moments? If you've never been and really want to go, what are the things that you want to see and do the most? Be sure to sound off those thoughts and more in the comment section down below. Be sure to follow me on my social medias and join my Discord server, which are all linked in the description below, and subscribe if you liked what you saw and want to see more. Either way, I'm Sam the Geiget fan, hoping you all have a lovely rest of your day, and thanking you all for the best G-Fest ever.